I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is the May 12, 2021 regular meeting of the Schertz Planning and Zoning Commission. Item number 2 on the agenda to seat an alternate is not required this evening. Thank you both for being here, though. I appreciate it. Item number 3, hearing of residents. This time is set aside for any person who wishes to address the Planning and Zoning Commission. Each person should fill out the speaker's register prior to the meeting. Presentation should be limited to no more than 3 minutes. Discussion by the Commission of any item not on the agenda shall be limited to statements of specific factual information given in response to any inquiry, a recitation of existing policy in response to an inquiry, and or a proposal to place the item on a future agenda. The presiding officer during the hearing of residents' position of the portion of the agenda will call on those persons who have signed up to speak in the order they have registered. And we only had one individual sign up tonight, and that's, well, actually there's 2 of them. Tina Hui, how do you pronounce your last name? Or Shannon, either one of you. You can both speak, but one at a time, okay? Okay, well, let me give you an option here. That 5B, you said?
5C.
5C. Well, that's a public hearing, so you have a choice. You can speak now, or you can speak during the public hearing, or you can do both. Okay. So something that's usually not clear to people is for a public hearing you don't have to sign this. It's kind of an open forum, but it's up to you. You can speak now.
No, we'll wait.
Okay. All right. And did we get any email write-ins? No. Okay. So takes care of item number 3. Item number 4 is the consent agenda, and we have 2 items on the consent agenda this evening. Item A, minutes for the April 28, 2021 regular meeting, and item B is PC 2021-015, consider and act upon request for approval of a final plat of the 9.36 acres on Kohler Road subdivision, an approximately 9.36 acre tract of land generally located 3,200 feet south of the intersection of Green Valley Road and Kohler Road, located in Schertz extraterritorial jurisdiction, Guadalupe County, Texas. Commissioners, do either of those items need to be pulled for discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Commissioner Haynes and Commissioner Greenwald. Have a motion and a second. There's no discussion on the consent agenda. I'll call for the vote.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. That's 7 ayes, none opposed. That motion passes. Item number 5, public hearing, and we have 3 of those this evening. The Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing related to zone change requests and replats within this agenda. The public hearing will be open to receive a report from staff, the applicant, the adjoining property owners affected by the applicant's request, and any other interested persons. Upon completion, the public hearing will be closed. The Commission will discuss and consider the application and may request additional information from staff or the applicant if required. After deliberation, the Commission is asked to consider and act upon the following requests and a recommendation to the City Council if necessary. So for those of you that may be new, the way we work these things is I will first receive a presentation from staff. And after they're done, we'll give the applicant an opportunity if they like. They're not required, but if they want to give us a presentation. I will then open the floor to anyone in the audience that would like to come forward and address the Commission. I will then close the public hearing, and the Commission will deliberate. So our first item A is ZC 2021-003, hold a public hearing, considering to make a recommendation on a request to rezone approximately 1.824 acres of land from General Business District, GB, to General Business District 2, GB2, located approximately 5,500 feet east of the intersection between Schwab Road and IH-35 Access Road, 6420 IH-35, also known as property identification number 67796, City of Schertz, Comal County, Texas.
Good evening, Commission. This is for ZC 2021-003, zone change request for approximately the 1.824 acres from the General Business District to the General Business District 2. My name is Megan Harrison, planner for the City of Schertz Planning Division. For reference, the subject property is outlined in green. Here is the City of Schertz city limits. This is the 200-foot notification boundary, and then IH-35 along the frontage right here. Here is the public hearing notification map. Again, outlined in blue is the subject property. That 200 notification buffer. Here is the City of Schertz city limits, and then the City of New Braunfels on this portion. We did send 9 public hearing notices on April 28, 2021. No responses have been received at this time. Here is the zoning exhibit. This is demonstrating the subject property, just for reference. And then City of Schertz city limits, City of New Braunfels, IH-35. This is for the zone change from GB to GB2. Outlined in yellow is the subject property. This is our current zoning map for the City of Schertz. The subject property is currently surrounded by parcels that are zoned General Business District and the Pre-Development District, as you can see here in the purple to the north, and then to the north as well as that General Business. Is adjacent to the City of New Braunfels right here. This is the City of Schertz city limits line, and then New Braunfels city limits, and the IH-35 frontage and highway right here. Except for the property within the City of New Braunfels, the immediately adjacent properties are currently undeveloped. So as mentioned before, here is that development and the General Business District. This is an undeveloped parcel, as well as to the west. This is also undeveloped general business. Due to the surrounding zoning and land uses, the rezoning of this property is not compatible with the adjacent land uses, as it could allow for higher intensity commercial and industrial uses along the IH-35 frontage. The existing general business zoning designation is more compatible with the surrounding properties, along with the desires of the comprehensive land use plan. So here is our comprehensive land use plan with the designation of the commercial campus outlined in blue. And then with this one, the objective of the commercial campus future land use designation is to accommodate the development of the lower intensity commercial and office uses to utilize a variety of mostly office, flex space, office use, and light industrial. The commercial campus future land use designation is associated with the General Business District based on the land uses allowed by right based on the Unified Development Code table. Here shortly, I'll have a slide that kind of has those designations. The General Business District 2, GB2, is a high-intensity zoning district which permits land uses that would not be compatible with the desires and the objectives of the commercial campus, which overall is to maintain that lower intensity commercial and that office use along the I-35 frontage. Just to reiterate, this is the I-35 frontage right here in front of this subject property. The proposed zone change from General Business District to the General Business District 2 is not compatible with the comprehensive land use plan and the Schertz sector plan, as the upzoning would allow for higher intensity land uses, which would not be in line with the current designation of having I-35 frontage corridor being identified for lighter intensity commercial retail type land uses. So this is from our permitted use table within the UDC. The following uses would be permitted by right or could be approved with an SUP. If the proposed zone change to GB2 were approved that are not currently permitted by right land uses within the general business zoning district. So just to kind of hit a few of these, currently the airport, heliport, and landing field would require an SUP in the general business. However, if permitted by, if the zone change were to go through the general business too, this would be permitted. Another one would be an automobile repair and service major, requires an SUP in the general business district. However, if it were to be general business too, this would be permitted by right. General manufacturing industrial use, that would be permitted by right within that general business too. And then as well as some over here, the office, warehouse, and distribution center. And then truck terminal would require an SUP for general business. However, it would be permitted by right with general business too. So this just kind of gives you, I know there's been times having that, wanting to know that designation between the general business 2 designation, or other land uses. This can kind of give an idea of what could be permitted by right within that general business 2 district. At this time, staff recommends denial of the proposed zone change to general business district 2 due to the proposed zoning is not in conformance with the goals and objectives of the comprehensive land use plan. The current zoning of district of general business 2 is more compatible with the existing zoning and land use of the adjacent properties within the city of Schertz. The proposed zoning is not in line with the city's vision to maintain the IH-35 frontage for a mix of retail, commercial, and office uses. At this time, the applicant is here. They do want to do a presentation, so they're going to pull up their slides to do that.
All right, thank you. You want to step up to the microphone, and for the record, please, if you'd, your name and address.
Very good. My name is Michael Morris. I'm an attorney in the city of New Braunfels and Schertz and Seguin. This is Amanda Irvin. She's my paralegal.
Can I interrupt?
Address?
Can I interrupt just a moment? Can you hear him in the back? No, if you, yeah.
You want me up close.
There you go. All right, thank you. We have the same issue up here.
I bet. I understand. I am a one-trick pony. Let me see if I can do my one trick. First of all, I'd like to commend y'all on your staff. Everybody we've worked with over at Planning and Zoning has been fabulous for the city staff. Megan, Brian, I mean, just everybody we've dealt with over there has been very cooperative, very helpful, very professional. I want to thank you guys for keeping good people around, because that makes it darn handy. I'm going to show you up on your, and I'm assuming you guys have the same thing on your monitors. Okay, thank you. This property we're going to be talking about today is owned by Mr. Wayne Schertz of Rancho Wayno, LLC. Okay? He's owned it since 2002, so about 20 years he's had this property. And once we take a look at the property, you're going to see kind of what our problem is going to be. He's had this property since before Schertz had annexed this chunk of land, because like Megan was pointing out, you're on now the city border. But when he bought this, there was no city border. You guys were way back at the other end over by this other side. That's making a big difference. Let me show you why. I'm showing the overhead satellite view of our property here. And you can see this is the primary problem that we're dealing with right now. This is 6410 North I-35. And this piece of property is surrounded by a RV center to the left and a boat distribution center to the right. Let me show you. I love this little guy. He just bounces right wherever you drop him. So that's our building. This most recent tenant was Stable Lift Foundation Repair. They would go underneath your house, jack your house up, get your house level, come back in later on, seal the house back up. That was their job. They filed bankruptcy in August of last year. That's been a joy. But they had every night this scenario going on. This is a picture from Google Maps, but it's an accurate representation. From morning until night, they always had all these cars parked in front, but they'd be up underneath these eaves for the most part. Sometimes they'd have one or two vehicles. Let me show you what's to the left and what's to the right. To the right is Tracker Boats. While the Tracker shop over there is in the city of New Braunfels, all these boats parked there are backing up to the city line between Schertz and New Braunfels. So that's, if you're looking for consistent use, that's at least one thing to look at, okay? But let's look at the left. This is in the city of Schertz. This is Texas RV Repair and Sales. They have a repair and sales shop for large motorhomes. Those are parked there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, which under the GB zoning is a non-conforming use, a violation, okay? If we were to turn around, just for reference, this is the classic auto shop across that has 7 or 8 vehicles that are parked there 24/7, morning, noon, and night. And then slightly to the right of that, this is Blackjack, which is another automotive sales and repair center, which is also zone GB, but has an SUP, so that they get to do automotive repair major. Still doesn't allow them to park overnight. And that's the heart of our problem. If I back out a little bit so you can see our satellite, do you see how far back this warehouse sits on that property? That's our fence line right behind us. The overnight parking rules, which we're going to talk about here in just a little bit, state that we can't put any cars up front here after the business closes at night. We can't have, for example, an automotive repair shop. They're going to demand that we put all those cars either in the building or behind the building when we go home at night. That's impossible. We don't have any room for that. This is a warehouse. It was bought as a warehouse. It's been used as a warehouse, and that's the problem we're running into. I mean, I'm going to yank this over here and give you the driver's seat. Since we've been annexed by the city of Schertz, we've had a list of uses that we've had for that property. And if you, yeah, there we go. These are our prior rentals that we've had in this same location. And they've been fairly consistent about what they need that property for. They need it for basically repairs, an equipment rental company that was headquartered out of Las Vegas. They had all their equipment out front being parked at night. Furniture store had their delivery trucks parked out front at night. The environmental company had a number of their oil field employee trucks parked out front at night. When this environmental company was leaving, that's when it stepped into the annexation. I believe that was around 2012, if I'm not mistaken. Since then, since we've had Stable Lift Foundation Repair leave, and of course they had overnight parking as well. Come on down to the rejected use, please. Since then, we have had 5 car mechanics who'd like to come be in there, but they can't park in front overnight. 3 golf cart sales companies, but they can't put their property out front overnight. 4 big rig mechanics, a small equipment sales for Kelly's small equipment, Tilt Wall headquarters. Now, when you see this list, what we're doing is when somebody calls us and says, hey, we see you've got a beautiful warehouse for rent, can we use this business there? We give them the phone number to planning and zoning and say, give them a call, run it by them, see what you get. Reject, 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 reject. We have not had a positive result for any of those uses, and we are now at a point where we are almost 9 months without a tenant. This is the income for Wayne Schertz in his retirement. This is it. And it's sitting there unused, and the city lets us know, no, you don't get to put them in there. Even though to the left, you've got vehicles parked overnight, even though to the right, you got vehicles parked overnight. And it's not just this chunk out on the hinterlands of Schertz, Texas. We've got overnight vehicles parked up and down. Now, let me see if I can use some of the vocabulary. Sorry, I'm still trying to get used to this. According to the comprehensive use plan, we're not supposed to have GB2 along I-35. And we're not supposed to have GB2 along I-10. But we do. Remember the Valero station up there off of, not Schwab, the one after, Hubertus. That Valero station, parked right on the access road next to RBFCU, is GB2. The whole zone, the whole chunk of it is this big purple dot. Do you have that map for the zoning showing the pretty colors? That's it. That, can you zoom in right where the Valero is? See that plus? Plus. Yeah. So while that's coming up, if you look at overnight parking, yeah, so that purple right there where she's pointing, that is the Valero station. And that's zone GB2. So it's not out of the previously never been done realm. It has been done, and they did it for a specific purpose. And there's trucks parked in the back overnight, along the sides overnight, and in front overnight. The gas pumps are out front most of the time, but if you look along the side, they could occasionally have trucks parked there. In fact, if you look up and down this strip of I-35, you've got the equipment rental store, you've got the, can you show me some of the overnights? Yeah. United Rentals, thank you. Let me show you United Rentals. Ooh. They've got theirs kind of along the side and up close to the front. Show me the list again. List. Oh, you got it. Sunbelt. Sunbelt. So these are some of the vehicles parked out front of Sunbelt Rental. Yeah, you can see that one a little bit better. What was the other equipment rental? There's 4 or 5 equipment rental places, and we've been told, nope, you can't have an equipment rental. That's not a conforming use, even though all along I-35, it's a conforming use. Which one? H&E equipment? Yeah, and you can see from the access road, these are parked along the side and even close to the front. Keep rolling through the nighttime pictures, please. So the problem we're running into is this. We need y'all's help, quite frankly. I don't know whether you want a GB2. I don't know whether you want an SUP. An SUP is really expensive. I don't know if you all have had to go down this road, but you got to come up with a site plan that I have to hire an engineering firm to do, and that is no small expense. Now, the staff's been very helpful in that regard. They've let us know, hey, we're trying to get approval to be able to have SUPs without a site plan. And they even said we can come in here and talk about it, just try not to, oh, there's the classic cars right across the street from us with their trucks overnight. There is no doubt that if we could get rid of that site plan requirement, it'd be cheaper. Vermeer's equipment out front during the nighttime hours. That's the dilemma we keep running into. Everybody up and down I-35 has equipment parked out front, has vehicles parked out front, but we're not allowed due to the zoning restrictions under GB. And here's the weird part. Even if you were to say, yes, Mike, go ahead, you can have a GB2, the literal reading of GB2 also prohibits overnight parking. Can you pull up the overnight parking exhibit? This is the definition that we're really struggling to get around and to deal with. And there you go. Let's see, can you hit that little sidebar button right there? That's a little better. Okay. Categories of outdoor storage and display. You have the top one for outdoor display for small equipment, and then the bottom one, general outdoor storage. The general outdoor storage is prohibited within the public right-of-way or fire lane. It's not allowed to be seen by anything that's within the right-of-way of the highway. And if you look at A above it, it's all remaining forms of outdoor storage. including stuff that's not easily moved, vehicles, semi-trailers, storage containers. We are in a position where no matter how we fit under GB or GB2, this is going to prohibit us from having almost any business, including the ones we've already had and the ones who are knocking on our door now. And this is the dilemma that I need help with, to be able to explain and provide a solution to my client. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here tonight. He had a medical test this morning. He was not able to get back here. I'm more than happy to submit that SUP. And we've got one already pending in front of the city's staff right now. But that SUP, if you'll pull up the SUP list that we had. Yeah, permitted uses. Permitted uses. Fabulous. And then jump down to the SUP stuff. Yeah, so here's what would be permitted with the SUP for GB, which gets us a little bit of relief. At least we get that automobile repairs and service major, even though we can't leave the cars parked outside at night, according to the restriction. It allows us to do the storage and warehouse wholesale down there, but that's a special use, a specific use permit. If we go back to GB, what they want, go back up GB. They want a bakery, a bed and breakfast, a bookstore, a daycare center, a department store, a florist, a laundromat. If you'll hit right there. That warehouse that is not a bakery. That's not a florist. That's a warehouse. And that's a warehouse where automotive repairs ought to be able to be done. I understand the city staff can't recommend GB2. They can't because it's not fitting with their game plan, which is generally trying to keep automotive things away from the frontage road of I-35. But the problem is that's what everybody's already doing, and that's the continued use that we need permission to do if we want to be able to rent this building. I am very thankful for all of your time, and I appreciate it. We're more than happy to take any questions if anybody has any questions for us.
All right, well, thank you for the presentation, and the questions will have to wait till the
Yes, sir.
deliberation stage, but thank you for the presentation. Yeah. So at this point, I will open the public hearing. Anyone in the audience that would like to address the commission on this topic is welcome to step forward. There's always a stampede. Nobody has any comments about this one? Going once, twice, closed. All right, commissioners, you have questions, comments for either staff or the applicant?
I have a question. These other businesses that were identified, are they under any type of grandfathering from being there before our zoning changed?
To my knowledge, no.
So most likely they would be considered non-conforming, legal non-conforming. We did not do a full review of each individual business, but most likely they would be considered non-conforming and be subject to the Article 7 of the UDC.
That's the trouble with staff turnover. The corporate history goes away. Commissioner Greenwald indicated that yes, they were, they've been up there a long time, and as Ms. Grobe said, they're existing non-conforming uses. So, and the only way to get them to conform is either they do it voluntarily or they sit empty for a certain amount of time or something like that. So, does that answer your question? Yes. Anyone else?
There were numerous businesses up there that were there for many years before we annexed. The old company that's sitting there, a friend of mine works there, so I know that one for a fact. It's been there even back in the early 80s. So it's not the only one. Like I say, there's numerous ones that have been there quite a while.
Given the building's current condition and current placement, is there anything that could be placed there that would fit in the commercial campus, the commercial campus idea that the comprehensive land use plan has?
So for the general business district, it would be either having like an office or a flex office type use, or like a retail business that would fit that commercial campus designation. So keeping that lighter, lower intensity uses instead of going with the higher intensity, such as like a warehouse, distribution center, or having like the airport helipad, even though I know obviously this one would not, the size of it's probably not big enough, but with that general business, it would be that office, flex office, retail business that would coincide with that commercial campus designation.
But the building as it's built now is a warehouse, right? So I don't get how we could, without extensive remodeling or tear it down and build something new, how could we get there from here? How could the owner of the building get there from here? It's a warehouse with a loading docks and loading doors and things like that, so.
And I can definitely see your point, Mr. Bro. I would say there are permitted uses on the permitted use table that I feel like could fit that existing building. So I think that's kind of the difference here. There's multiple land uses on that permitted use table that with the current zoning GB, one of them heavy equipment sales surface rental, that can go in general business zoned properties, and I think that would probably fit in with the existing warehouse that's there. So I think there's that component, and then there's, when we start looking at doing a zone change and looking at the comprehensive land use plan, where the current designation with that commercial campus, it may not fit the existing structure that's there, but I wouldn't say that negates the fact that we wanted that office warehouse or the office retail light commercial on the frontage, big picture long term. I don't know if that helped.
But if it stayed general business, I'm trying to find where the parking restrictions are. Where are those overnight parking restrictions?
So what was being mentioned is more on the general outdoor storage, which in the GB would not be permitted for the general outdoor storage. And we'd be happy to pull that section up. With the GB2 that was mentioned, it would be allowed for the general outdoor storage, but it would have to be behind the building or completely screened where you can't see it from the right of way.
Screen the aluminum.
Technically, yes. It just has to be screened. The way the code is written is that it has to be behind the building, completely enclosed, or not visible from the public right-of-way.
So how would that work if they were doing the equipment sales that you were talking about? They would still have to park things in that front parking lot. So that's not allowed either. So how would they sell anything?
So let's... And you'll have to give me just a second so I can get to the UDC here. Okay, so this is the first thing I want to note. So outdoor display and temporary outdoor storage, that's allowed in the general business. General outdoor storage is not allowed. Okay, so then the further definition of that, outdoor display and temporary outdoor storage are displays of items actively for sale or lease that are lightweight and that individually can be easily moved without a mechanical lifting device. Okay. Then the general outdoor storage is that other classification. It's all remaining forms of outdoor storage not classified as outdoor display items, not classified as outdoor display, including items of a large size, mass, or volume that are not easily moved or carried, such as used tires, railroad ties, discarded inventory, storage pallets, shipping containers, semi-trailers not attached to a truck. So that's where the requirement of completely enclosed, moved to the rear of the structure, can't be visible from the public right-of-way comes in. So it's that larger classification of stored items. So if it was something that's actively for sale or lease that could be moved, generally we would classify it as outdoor display and temporary outdoor storage. But I would just say that since it is the zone change, they're requesting to go from GB to GB2, so don't just look at the storage that would be allowed, but every other land use that would be allowed in the general business district 2 that we may not want directly on 35.
Anyone else before I jump in here? Okay. First of all, I'm a little miffed. Okay, I spent several hours going through the agenda. One included making a list of what's allowed in GB2 and what's allowed in Manja. You know, and if I'd known you guys were going to do that, I could have saved myself a lot of time. Again, what Emily points out, so that you understand where we're coming from, is a zoning case is not about a specific project. So we understand that maybe you'd like a mechanic would like to open a shop or something like that. But unfortunately, if we approve the zoning to GB2, then anything in this list can be there. And that's kind of the wrinkle in the whole thing here. With that said, you also took away my thunder on what's around you up there, okay? The comprehensive plan, I have mixed feelings about that, folks, because we're totally disregarding it down south for the residential developers, okay? We've basically taken that thing and thrown it in the trash can. So it seems a little unfair to try to enforce it in other parts of town where, you know, and again, a point that the applicant made very well, I'm sure there was a method to the city's, I'm sure there's a reason they zoned this property general business. If you look at the zoning map, you'll see, except for that exception around 1103, it's general business the entire frontage. And that was years ago, and they did it, I think, more for aesthetic purposes than for anything else, which is not bad. Okay, you know, we have to have a vision of what we want our city to look like. But realistically, you look up there, and so here you drive into the city of Schertz. You've just passed a boat sales place. Now you see the RV. I didn't realize he was doing sales. I knew he did repairs up there, and that's a use that isn't allowed until M1, RV sales and service. So he's really non-conforming in that use. And then what's next? The porta potty guy, okay? And you see rows and rows and rows of porta potties. And then as the applicant pointed out, you come a little bit further south, and where the equipment rental places that used to be Baker oil field services, and we had all kinds of stuff stored there. And then right next to them is the tractor sales guy, and he's got all his equipment parked out front. And so where I'm going with this is, yes, I'm sure we had a reason years ago when we set this as general business. And you know, the other comment is when I go through this list and I compare GB to GB2 to M1, and it's not always, why is that okay in GB2, but it's not, you know, some of that, when I look at those lists, they don't always make a lot of sense, okay? Not your fault, you didn't write them, okay, so, you know. So, I don't know. It's been zoned that way for a long time, and the city did it for a reason, but again, we're changing our zoning all over the city for other people. And, you know, especially, you know, when I look at the list of what's allowable in GB2, you know, here's an aside for you that makes no sense. In GB2, you can have general manufacturing and industrial use. Okay, and then in manufacturing 1, you can have manufacturing. And I'm kind of wondering what's the difference between general manufacturing and manufacturing. That's kind of stuff I'm saying as you go through this. So, you know, we've been told over and over again, you know, we as a commissioner are taking quite a beating in land uses in southern Schertz. And, you know, we're told things change, things change, things change. Well, don't they change up north as well? Okay. Well, that's all I have. Commissioners, anybody have anything else?
I think given when this building was built and given the conditions that existed when this building was built, if we enforce today's standards on them, it's like we're penalizing the owner of the building, and we're preventing the progress of business. And you know, there could be a viable business there, and the city could be collecting viable taxes from this. And given what's there and given what's surrounding that area, both next door and across the street, I don't think anything's going to change in the next 20 or 30 years. It's all going to be there. It's all going to stay there. And by restricting the owner that's been there for many, many, many years, and asking them or demanding that they abide by today's standards, I think is unfair.
One, I don't want to say final thought because, but another thought, even if the zoning changes to general business 2, that still doesn't solve your overnight parking issue, correct? So how would we handle that? I mean, that seems to be the real sticking point, is the overnight parking. And, you know, just going to GB2 isn't going to solve that.
So, Mr. Outlaw, you're correct. So those same requirements, if the GB2 gets approved, they would still be bound to Article 8, the general outdoor storage screening requirements of it being behind the structure, completely enclosed, not visible from the right-of-way. Those would still be in effect.
What?
Golf carts, for example, probably not going to be permitted under 2 is permitted under 3 or 4 of the uses we already have rejected, probably.
Okay. All right, thank you. Commissioners, any further comments or questions? All right. Ernie?
I got one question. Why are we not looking at an SUP for this?
Well, let me jump in here real quick. Number one, I understand the SUPs are expensive because you have to get the site plan done. But we've talked about this before. you know, the use table, when you go into UDC, the permitted use table is very specific about where you can do something with an SUP. If there's not an S in there, you can't ask for an SUP. And you know, I've brought that question up before and said, why not? You know, and that may be something that maybe has slipped by the wayside, and maybe we want to talk about it in the future, but, you know, I'm somewhat of the mind that special use permit, maybe you should be able to ask for it in any zoning district, okay? All right, so did you have something to add real quick?
That was going to be my comment.
Okay.
If I have a specified use permit, I have to, somebody calls me and says, hey, I want to put my automotive shop, major repair there. I come to the city, I come to get a SUP. 60 days later, 90 days later, we finally have the site plan, have everything. No tenant is going to wait around 120 days for me to get an SUP.
No. And so, you know, permitted by right in zoning is certainly the better way to go, which again, I'm glad I didn't say final thought, because here's another one. The Valero that you cite has an SUP. A convenience store with gas pumps requires an SUP. So it's not so much that that particular corner is GB2, it's the fact that he asked for and got an SUP, correct? I think, yes. Okay, so,
Question.
all right.
The golf cart shop used to be right in front of Northcliffe.
Mm-hmm.
Was there for almost 20 years.
An existing non-conforming use, I would bet, so, right?
This is one lot, right? Both of the buildings are on the same lot.
Yes, sir.
The RV place is allowed to be there and continue operating because it's been there. If they move out and somebody else moves in, they'll fall into the same predicament as we're facing here with this gentleman.
So they would have to, conform if they wanted to be, if the zoning were to say to general business, they would have to conform with the general business land uses. If the zoning were to be approved for general business 2, then they would have to conform to the general business 2 land use designations.
So they're still there only because they haven't left.
And just to kind of expand on that, within the non-conforming Article 7 UDC section, there are stipulations and requirements that if one business leaves and another one starts a very similar business, then they could be allowed to continue. It's when there's a lapse for, I believe, 180 days where there's not a tenant. Within 180 days, then that non-conforming use ceases and cannot restart. So if the RV sales service business were to leave, they could fall under that Article 7, and a similar RV business or something like that could start up if they complied with everything in Article 7.
So we're considering these, even though it's one lot, we're considering it as two individual different businesses?
So it's it is one lot, but two individual structures, two different addresses, and they had two different C of Os. So if the C of O, lapses and they're applying for a new C of O after that 180 days, then that non-conforming use can't restart.
Okay. Thank you.
Interesting. All right, Commissioners, since this is a zone change, it requires approval by City Council. So what we're looking for this evening is a motion to recommend to City Council that they either approve or deny this application.
Mr. Chairman, I got one more question.
Go ahead.
How could the property owner comply with the overnight parking requirement? Could they simply build a wall, a fence in front?
So they could do screening requirements. That could be a fence or a living wall, but there is the requirements within the Section 9 for the UDC for having that screening along the I-35 frontage.
And they could do that without an SUP?
That would be for the general outdoor storage requirements. For the general business, they would have to meet those requirements for the fencing without the SUP.
The screening might be cheaper than an SUP.
Anyone care to make a motion?
I want to be clear, since city staff recommended denying, if we wanted to approve the application to the city council, we would deny the city's?
No. No, you're correct that staff is recommending denial, okay, but the motion, our motion really has nothing to do with that. Our motion is to recommend approval or recommend denial of the application. Yes, not the staff memo.
What are we going to recommend, GB2?
Well, the application is to rezone it to GB2, that's correct. So a recommendation to approve would be to change it to GB2. A recommendation to deny the application, it would remain GB.
So I move that we make a recommendation to City Council to approve the rezoning to GB2 for ZC 2021-003.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Haynes to recommend approval to rezone this property to GB2. Do I have a second?
Second.
Does Commissioner Platt? Okay. So we have a motion and a second to recommend approval to change this from GB to GB2. Any other discussion or questions? Call the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. So if I counted correctly, that's 6 ayes and you were a nay, correct? Okay. Do we need anything on that nay vote?
Yes, please.
Rationale? Reason?
Mr. Evans, if... Thank you.
Okay. All right. All righty. So that took longer than I thought it would. Well, again, all we're doing is recommending. You know, it's really up to City Council. So we'll see what they decide. All right. Moving on to item B. Another public hearing, ZC 2021-001. Hold a public hearing, consider and make a recommendation on a request to rezone approximately 6 acres of land from general business and manufacturing light district to general business and manufacturing light district, located approximately 2,000 feet west of the intersection between FM 2252 and IH 35 access road, 18735 North IH 35, also known as Comal County Property Identification Number 78020, City of Schertz, Comal County, Texas. Yep.
Good evening, Commission. This is for ZC 2021-001, zone change request for approximately 6 acres from General Business District GB and Manufacturing Light M1 to General Business District GB and Manufacturing Light District M1. Megan Harrison, planner for the City of Schertz Planning Department. Outlined here in green is the subject property for 18735 IH 35. Here is IH 35 and the notification boundary for the 200 feet. Here is the public hearing notice map that was sent out on April 28, 2021. 9 public hearing notices were mailed. We had 1 response in favor. Here is the property outlined in blue and that 200-foot notification boundary. And then indicated with the green star is the property that submitted the in favor after the agenda was posted. So we did receive that after that was posted on Friday. So just wanted to provide the zoning exhibit. So as you probably were reading, you're probably wondering about the GBM1 to GBM1. So this is the, right here currently, this is the line for the manufacturing light in the back portion, and then in the front portion is the general business. On the next slide, we'll get into the acreage of that. So as mentioned, this is the zoning exhibit. So this designation right here for the zoning of existing M1 and GB, the current zoning has the 4.5 acres outlined right here as the general business, and then the 1.4 acres for the manufacturing light right here. The proposed zoning request is to have the 1.6 acres for the general business as indicated right here, and to increase the manufacturing light to 4.3 acres as indicated right here. Essentially, the applicant is requesting to reduce the acreage that is currently zoned general business district and increase the zoned manufacturing light district. The proposed area is to remain as a general business district up here in the front, and this would comply with the lot width and depth minimum and requirement for the zoning district of being the 100 by 100 in the UDC. So here's the current zoning map. This property is outlined in the yellow. Again, this is the current zoning map, so it does show that indication in the general business all the way back here with the manufacturing light in the back. Again, just to reiterate, they are wanting to move that general business up and have the M1 come forward. This is still IH 35, so it is still keeping with that GB on the frontage. So as you can see, with the current zoning, as indicated, the subject property is surrounded by several parcels that are zoned general business district and that manufacturing light. The rezoning of this property is compatible with the adjacent land uses, as the general business district is intended to provide a lower intensity commercial along the I-35 frontage, and then keeping the manufacturing light district along the back portion. Additionally, the property to the rear of the subject is adjacent to the currently zoned manufacturing light district zone portion of the property, so the proposed zone change should have minimal impact. Here's the comprehensive land use plan. This designation is the commercial campus. So the objective of the commercial campus future land use designation is to accommodate the development of the lower intensity commercial and office uses that utilize a variety of mostly office, flex space office, and light industrial. The location of this property being along the I-35 frontage right here makes it an ideal location for a lower intensity commercial with some light industrial type development. The proposed zone change, which would maintain the general business in the front of the 1.6 acres, will allow the lower intensity land uses that are resided immediately adjacent to I-35. The general business district and manufacturing light meets the goals and objectives of the comprehensive or the commercial campus future land use designation by permitting lower intensity commercial and office uses along the I-35 frontage. At this time, staff recommends approval of the proposed zone change to modify the acreage of the existing zoning designations based on the proposed zone change is consistent with the goals and objectives of the comprehensive land use plan. The proposed zone change, which maintains the general business GB along the IH-35 frontage, will allow for the commercial, retail, and office uses that are desired within the commercial campus designation. The proposed zone change should have minimal impact on the surrounding land uses.
All right, Megan, thank you. Is the applicant here? Would you like to address the commission? You're welcome to. It's not required. All right.
Happy to answer.
Okay.
I'm Shane Clark with Inc. Civil. We're representing the owner as their engineer. This is the owner.
Hi, I'm Federico Martinez, and Laura Daro is my partner over there. We plan on developing that 6-acre lot. We believe that with the two commercial uses that we have in front, that we have two retail malls in front, there's going to be a lot of commercial development and a lot of retail in that area. On our analysis, we saw that the Tri-County Industrial Park area is already pretty much filled up, and there's more need for a small warehouse space, especially under 6,000 square feet. We are proposing building 60,000 square foot buildings of light industrial for multiple use tenants, and leaving two industrial pads, two commercial pads for retail. That we believe will be a good fit for the commercial on the other side of the street, which they will have a very strict conforming use to be within that mall, and we believe that having these pads on the other side of the street will allow more flexible use for different types of tenants. And that's pretty much our proposed use. We plan on developing all 6 acres. And that's pretty much our plan.
Okay, thank you. All right, at this time, anyone in the audience wishing to address the commission on this topic is welcome to step forward. Nobody. So much interest. Okay, all right. Going once, going twice, nobody. All right, commissioners, your comments and questions.
I'm looking at the permitted use table online, which I assume is current. M1, it says manufacturing. M2 is light manufacturing. So which one are you talking about when it says M1 light manufacturing? Manufacturing light district.
So
Which is which?
the M1 designation, so manufacturing district M1.
So M1 pretty much allows everything. The more restrictive one is the M2. So we want the M1, is that what we want?
That's what they're requesting to keep the zoning, to keep the current zoning, but to move the general business, decreasing the general business to that 1.6 acres, keeping it along that I-35 frontage, and increasing the manufacturing district in the back with this portion right here,
Okay.
the 4.3.
Okay, I get that. But why in the permitted use table does M1 say manufacturing and M2 says light manufacturing?
It's
More of the heavy uses.
But you're calling it M1 light. That's what's...
Well, and again, Commissioner, if you remember my comment from the previous one is manufacturing, general manufacturing / industrial is also allowed in GB2. So it's all about definitions, and I guess that's where we're hung up right now. We don't understand the different definitions.
Well, M2 light hardly allows anything. I guess it's not the intended purpose, it's the title. Why are we using 2 different titles?
So there's the M1, that's the manufacturing light, and then M2 is manufacturing heavy.
Now, where'd you get that?
So on the permitted use table, the expand button right here. And then if you scroll all the way over, so there's the 2 difference. The M1 is the manufacturing light, and then M2 is manufacturing heavy. So there are differences between what's allowed in M1 versus M2.
So I have to expand it. I still can't.
Well, so you see the entire table, yes.
Okay.
What am I expanding?
Commissioner Bro, it's that blue button we were talking about at one of the other meetings in that top right-hand corner. And it may be difficult because of the iPad, so I can pull it back up if you would like on the screen, or if you want to use the iPad.
Well, I took a look, I brought up Google Earth and I took a look around, existing development on about an acre and a half, and, you know, I found McDonald's and, I think Randolph Brooks, the credit union, is, about, it's right in the same, so you're looking, you know, an acre and a half will give you a standalone of something, you know, could be a fast food place, or they're certainly not going to be able to build a mini mall or a strip center or anything like that in there. Okay, I had a couple questions on this one. That general business zoning, again, is uniform from 3009 all the way to the city limits. It appears to be about 1,000 feet. Is that, you know, it's again, the same kind of concerns I had with the previous zoning case. There must have been some reason as to why they chose to make it 1,000 feet deep. Does anybody want to take a guess? Because I know none of you know why, but except maybe Mr. Greenwald.
It was done by council when we annexed all of 35. We automatically went 1,000 foot on either side.
Okay.
That's 24 years ago.
Yeah. And, you know, again, it does, can you bring the comprehensive plan back up? Any idea, does that look, what am I trying to ask here? So the pink area with the green star on it, is that upper boundary, do you think that, is that following the current GB zoning, do you think, or pretty, well, it can't because it's shallower at this end, but anyway. But as staff pointed out, they're preserving the 35 frontage. Now, if you could bring the aerial back up. So if we change the zoning, well, I guess where I'm going is with access, and of course, staff's going to tell me that comes at plat time. But I'm just curious where, if we put a 60,000 square foot warehouse in the back there, is that driveway going to have to enter on, you know, if they have to enter on their own property, they've just constrained that 1.6 acre development. So, but again, you know, I think that GB line was, it, you know, was uniformly, but I think the 1,000 feet was, there was no real reason for 1,000 feet. So, I don't know that it would be that dramatic to let that line come forward a little bit, as long as we're preserving the frontage as general business. But again, I'll point out to this applicant that, you know, our concern has to be not what you're going to do with the property, but what somebody could do with the property once the zoning is changed. So, commissioners, who else wants to talk? All right, once again, this is a decision for city council, so what we're looking for is a recommendation to either approve or deny the application to rezone. Well, yeah, it's kind of late, okay, because the public comment is closed, so sorry.
I recommend approval of ZC 2021-001 as presented.
Second.
That was Commissioner Haynes. Okay, so I have a motion to recommend approval from Commissioner Platt and a second from Commissioner Haynes. Any further questions or discussion?
Aye.
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 Aye. All right, 7 ayes, none opposed. So we will recommend the city council that they approve that one. Okay. Moving on to item C. ZC 2021-004, hold a public hearing, consider and make a recommendation on a request to rezone approximately 61 acres of land from general business, single-family residential, agricultural district, so it's, right now, I guess it's zones GBRA, and Planned Development District, PDD, to Planned Development District, located at 9661 East FM 1518 North, 10105 East 1518 North, and 7901 East FM 1518 North, also known as Bear County Property Identification Numbers 309-889, 309-923, and 105-8761, City of Schertz, Bear County, Texas. Megan?
Good evening, Commission. This is for ZC 2021-004, zone change request for approximately 61 acres from General Business District, Single Family Residential Agricultural District, and Planned Development District to Planned Development District. Megan Harrison, planner for the City of Schertz Plan Department. Just want to start off by saying this is a zone change request for approximately 61 acres that is comprised of 3 separate tracts. So as we go through the slides, we will reference as track 1, track 2, and track 3. So to start, track 1 is outlined in green. This is the hard corner of Lower Seguin and FM 1518. Track 2, this is the subject property outlined in green along 1518. And track 3, outlined in green, comes down here and back up and is along FM 1518. So with all 3 tracks, there was a total of 20 public hearing notices that were sent out. We did receive 1 response in favor of the proposed zone change. This is the public hearing notice map for track 1, outlined in blue. Again, the hard corner of Lower Seguin in 1518. Here is the public hearing notice map for track 2, for the property outlined in blue, again 1518. And then track 3 outlined here in blue along the FM 1518 frontage. So as contemplated in the Crossvine PDD, this amendment, the 5th amendment, is the continuation of the definition of the overall conceptual master plan and is primarily focused on the addition of property to the Crossvine PDD, which hereafter referred to as Module 2B or Module 3A Unit 1. The Crossvine PDD remains in full force and effect, with the exception of matters addressed herein, which shall be considered to the amendments to the Crossvine PDD. Elements, requirements, and conditions set forth in the Crossvine PDD shall be deemed to apply to those portions of the property addressed by the 5th Amendment unless specifically excluded, changed, or modified. Similarly, nothing in this 5th Amendment shall be deemed to modify any elements, requirements, or conditions of the Crossvine PDD unless specified herein. So this is for track 1 and track 2. This will be incorporated within Module 2B. Track 1 is a 1-acre tract. Here is that parcel right here, currently zoned general business. Track 2, back here, currently zoned that single-family residential agricultural district. This shall comply as a and develop as a mixed use in the proposed town center to the north of Lower Seguin Road. The town center shall include City of Schertz emergency services, community amenity center, retail, office, multifamily residences, and townhome villages. The proposed Crossvine 5th Amendment will be applicable to the zoning and the terms and conditions and requirements associated with the existing The Crossvine Module 2B and be included into the entire Crossvine PDD project area. Just wanted to provide a, that other map was more zoomed in. This one is the zoning exhibit zoomed out. Again, this is that tract 1, right here at the hard corner of Lower Seguin and 1518, zone general business. And tract 2, zone single family residential agricultural along FM 1518. This is within the PDD Fifth Amendment. This is the conceptual plan. They have identified tract 1 in the orange and tract 2 in the orange. Just wanted to show that the town center that is being proposed to the north of the Lower Seguin Road. For tract 3, will be known as Module 3A Unit 1, shall be developed with single-family residential development and will be likely comprised of primarily of DSFR 4, DSFR 5, and DSFR 6. We will go through those on the next slide. The design for Module 3A shall be a natural extension of the land plan design and development aesthetic of the Crossvine. The dominant theme and aesthetics of the Crossvine of accessible green space, walking trails, meandering roadways, and intimate cul-de-sacs will be maintained. The construction, landscaping, signage, and other features in Module 3A Unit 2 will adhere to the public amenity and architectural standards as previously established by the Crossvine PDD for Module 1 and Module 2A. So here's the zoning exhibit for tract 3. Also known as Module 3A Unit 1. And then within the PDD, they've had highlighted, comprised of approximately 54 acres, right here for Module 3A Unit 1. So for the DSFR 4 through the DSFR 6, we have the first one being DSFR 4, being the 45 by 110, having that 5-foot side yard setbacks, the 10-foot rear side yard 10-foot rear setbacks, and the 20-foot setbacks. DSFR 5 would be comprised of 55 by 110, again having that 5-foot side yard, 10-foot rear, and 20 front. The DSFR 6 being comprised of 65 by 115, having that 5-yard setback, the 10 rear yard setback, and the 20 rear yard setback. The DSFR 4, DSFR 5, and DSFR 6 side setbacks are consistent with all the previously approved amendments for the Crossvine PDD project area, with the exception of Ordinance 17-S-01 for Module 2A garden homes. So this one is for the land allocation. So this just touches on the above DSFR 1, and then what is being proposed in the Fifth Amendment for DSFR 4, 5, and 6, the minimum and maximum plan number of units. So as we can see, this is for Module 3A and 3B. So as you can see at DSFR 4, the minimum is 144, the max is 216. They're planning to have 180. For DSFR 5, for the minimum is 149, max is 223. They're planned to have 186. DSFR 6, their minimum is 76, max is 114, planned is 95. Again, this is for Module 3A and 3B. So for Module 3A, we'll include a proposed amenity center to be constructed concurrently with Module 3A Unit 2. The proposed amenity center will include the following: a lap pool suitable for competitive swim meets with dimensions of no less than 25 meters in length and 10.5 meters in width, a wading or splash pad appropriately sized in conjunction with the other pool facilities, a conditioned interior building area with no less than 400 feet of office area, a community room of no less than 1,000 square feet, restrooms and storage area, and an outdoor open air covered pavilion of no less than 1,700 square feet. So just wanted to provide the conceptual plan for the Module 3. Here is 1518, And then, as previously mentioned, the amenity center, as you can see, is shown here in the conceptual plan. So for, as we have indicated, in the red star is the track 1, and then for track 2, to the north of Lower Seguin and at that hard corner of 1518. Track 1 and Track 2, the Crossfire Module 2B is designed to be a town center with a mix of commercial, retail, and residential uses. The proposed zone change to incorporate this approximately 7 acres track is directly in line with the goals and objectives of the mixed-use core. Indicated down here with the green is Track 3, comprised of approximately 54 acres, is identified by the Comprehensive Land Use Plan as a state neighborhood. Traditionally, the estate neighborhood is designed to be a half-acre tract, but due to the fact that this property is already zoned as part of the Crossvine PDD, the estate neighborhood classification does not seem appropriate at this time. So this is the current zoning map. As we can see with the red, this is Track 1, having that GB designation. Again, hard corner of Lower Seguin in 1518. Track 2, indicated in yellow, this is the property zone single family residential agricultural. Track 3 with the star, currently zoned as the Crossvine PDD along the FM 1518. And then just wanted to provide an overview of the full Crossvine PDD, starting at the northern portion. Here is the FM 1518 in Lower Seguin. And then just for reference, this was the just recently approved Fourth Amendment to include that 58 acres previously. So staff analysis of the PDD. So based on Track 1 abutting a major intersection of Lower Seguin Road and FM 1518, currently surrounded by the Crossvine PDD zone properties, and the proposal to incorporate this additional 1 acre into the Crossvine Module 2B, there should be a minimal impact on the adjacent properties. Based on Track 2, directly adjacent to FM 1518 and properties already within the Crossvine PDD, and proposed to be Module 2B, there should be minimal impact on the adjacent properties. Since the Crossvine Module 2B is designed to be a town center with a mix of commercial, retail, and residential uses, the proposed zone change to incorporate Track 1 and Track 2, comprising approximately 7 acres, is directly in conformance with the Comprehensive Land Use Plan goals and objectives for the mixed-use core. Specifically, the proposed PDD standards will allow these 2 tracts totaling approximately 7 acres to be developed as proposed with Module 2B. Track 3 is approximately 54 acres, currently zoned as part of the Crossvine PDD, is proposed to include within the Crossvine PDD Fifth Amendment, and is essentially to update the current Crossvine regulations for identified subject area. Since the property is currently zoned for the Crossvine, the proposed amendments to the PDD standards should have minimal impact to the adjacent land uses. Based on the conformance with the goals and objectives of the Comprehensive Land Use Plan and the minimal impact to the adjacent properties, staff recommends approval of the following tracts. The zone change request for Track 1, 1 acre from General Business GB to Planned Development District. The zone change request for Track 2, 5.77 acres from Single Family Residential Agricultural District to Planned Development District. And the zone change request for Track 3, 53.72 from Planned Development District to Planned Development District.
All right, thank you, Megan.
We do have the applicant here to do a presentation.
Commissioners, my name is Chris Price. We're the developer of the Crossvine. And I think what we'd like to do to kind of start off our presentation, we've got new members on the board that maybe don't understand the history of it, but I think it will be useful to the discussion. Does this work? Great. This tract, or this development really started in the mid-2000s, and it was started by a developer out of Austin. They started the development, or recognized where the future development of Schertz would go, and that was going to be South Schertz, or the I-10 corridor of Schertz. So he ended up blocking up about 850 acres and negotiated with the city for a plan. And this on your board is what the original plan looked like. They started development of it in, I think, 2009. The project, though, petered out with the housing bubble burst and the financial crisis. So we ended up inheriting the project, and when we inherited it, we had a business plan that wouldn't work. We had the city wasn't particularly pleased with the direction of the development. So we researched and really decided there was one way to go, and that was a master plan mixed-use community. There weren't many in this market, generally or specifically Northeast San Antonio. So we went in, assembled a team, went in and talked to the city. And the city, frankly, we were expecting kind of a negative reaction, but we got a very positive reaction, and we ended up over the next 5-6 months working with the city to develop the new master plan. This may be a little difficult to use or view, but this was the original master plan. Now, there are two key elements to this plan, really the PDD in general in this plan. One was the addition of additional properties added to the project as opportunities warranted. The other element of it was because of the size of the development and the number of years it would be involved, we broke the project up into 3 what we call modules. And the city wanted that because that allowed them to come back, and we would have to come before P&Z and council each time we did a new phase or development. And so that's what we've done. This is if you'll point out, when it was originally done, this 13-acre parcel was not involved, and then when we go further, we've added this property here. We've added this 13 acres. We also added a parcel, an out parcel that was down here over the years. This is where we are today. We're looking at the development, and this is the project that Megan just did a great job going through. One thing I want to mention is another element of the master plan was that the densest development or densest development would be at the intersection of Lower Seguin Road and 1518, and it was contemplated that this would be sort of a town center use. This is where your, retail, that type of thing would be located, denser housing types, that stuff. This is an illustration of what we're looking at doing here in Module 3. Megan did a good job of explaining that. One of the things we are going to do with this plat is plat the amenity center, though the amenity center will be built with N3A Unit 2. So that will be done at that time. Megan described, quite accurately what we're planning on doing. I'll be frank, we're still programming out what those uses will be, and they'll be and as the community develops. This is just, again, a conceptual view of the amenity center, you know, the lap pool, splash pad, that kind of thing. This was the first phase that was completed. Some illustrations. The second phase is completed. And then this is the third phase, which is just wrapping up. This is the Pulte property, which is on the other side of Sedona, and that's wrapping up. This is the garden home section that you approved, I think, probably three and a half years ago. That's currently under construction. We hope to deliver those lots here in August. The builders on that will be Weekly and Scott Felder. We're quite excited about it. We think it's going to be good for the community. You know, there's not much of that housing stock in Schertz, and so this will give those that are looking for that the opportunity to stay or move to Schertz. Again, this is the master plan of the town center. One thing I want to stress, this is purely conceptual. It won't likely look anything like this. This was done about 5 years ago. There's also some errors in here in that, for instance, the property we're bringing into the development in this PDD request is indicated as being fully developed, as well as a property behind it. So just, I want to make sure everybody's aware that that's not included. This, again, was really for illustrative purposes. As for the PDD amendment, most of what is in the PD amendment is really strengthening or reinforcing issues in the PDD, whether it be landscaping, drainage, you know, that kind of thing. I'd say the most substantive change is the fact that we're seeking 45, 55, and 65-foot lots as opposed to the 50, 60, and 70s that we currently have. And what's really driving that decision is pricing in the Crossvine is really, I mean, it's doing much better than we ever would have dreamt. But you're looking at homes starting in the mid-300s going up to close to 600,000 now. And what that presents to us, and more importantly, I guess, the builders, is it makes it difficult for the VA, because the max on a VA loan is 548. This is one way to allow us to deliver a product that still has the same feel, quality, that type of thing, that you get on the 40 or the 50, 60, and 70s. So that, Bradley, did I leave anything out? We're available for any questions.
All right, Mr. Price, thank you for that presentation. A lot of good information there. Thank you. All right, at this time, we'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to address the commission on this topic is welcome to step forward. Again, if you would please state your name and address for the record.
Hello, this is Shannon and Tina Hui. We live at 10105 East FM, 1518, Lot 1. And that's what I was supposed to, okay. So we are just concerned about track 2. And I heard that he said that the town center won't look quite like that, but as of right now, I believe our home, our land, 5.96 acres, is included in the town center. We're concerned about the adverse impacts of the drainage from their development into our property, the stormwater, the noise level, the lights. What kind of buffers are they planning on putting up? Safety and the traffic. I don't have a fancy map, but I can show you where our house is on track 2, or close to track 2. The change in the use may be very disruptive to our family and our children's ag projects. To my knowledge, the Planned Development District does not have known published development requirements, and as an immediately adjacent neighbor, we feel like we should have been provided the information before it becomes the governing ordinance of the property.
Can we show them that map? We're both teachers, so I don't like using a mic. If we can't command the
And can
room
you hear
without
us?
a mic.
Well,
Tell we're teachers.
we can hear you. The problem is the audience has,
So, like she said, that track 2.
Can you go to this one?
Yes.
Okay.
So we are the panhandle looking one there.
So this is our property right here.
The Oklahoma looking panhandle.
That's our property. And so,
Yeah, the module 2 actually is right over ours, as you can see. So, and it goes into ours as well. That town center is actually over a part of our property on the map that you had that showed the town center over it. Yeah, so if you,
so this is,
the red is actually over ours.
no, I think it's just right here. Or right here. But like,
Well, no, but I mean like the roads and everything leading to it. So it would be over our property. So
we're just concerned, like, what, I just heard that it won't look like that, but what will it look like, and how will it affect the life that we are trying to create for our family in that property?
drainage and noise level and.
So, and we have not met with Mr. Price or anything to see how that would affect.
okay. Thank you very much for your input.
Oh, and curious is if, since we don't have any of that information, and if possible, to table the track 2 one until we get further information on how that would affect our land and close to that area.
Okay. Thank you. I can offer, well, sure, come on up. You bet. Come on.
Very first meeting. This is my really first meeting. So I'm not as prepared as they are at all. So I'm just on the other side of track 3. And I also tried to find information on what this might look like or whatnot on the website. So I would also appreciate some information as to what that's going to entail, the traffic. And it looked like it was all going to be houses or subdivision just across. But I would also like to get some information on that.
Okay. And could we have your name and address for the record?
I'm sorry?
Your name and address?
Okay, I'm Maria Jones, and my address is 7960 East FM 1518 North.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Anyone else? All right.
Okay, sorry. I just wanted to point out that as of right now, they don't have permission to include our property in the town center or any type of right-of-way or as of now.
Right. Anyone else? Going once? Twice? Okay. Let me just address some of your concerns, and maybe we'll get staff and maybe even Mr. Price will jump in here. So yeah, what he's showing you in terms of town center, that's just a concept. There's when I look at when you look at the real estate records, there's other property owners in there. So it's still, this is a future project, and when it comes time to develop, to actually start building the town center. We will go through this process again, probably with another PDD amendment, and that will be focused on town center. Now, during the planning process, particularly not so much, we're really, what we're doing this evening is kind of a high level type of decision where they've submitted this PDD, which lays out a couple of exceptions to our standards. But what will happen, again, this is a zoning change, so regardless of what the commission decides tonight, this issue will go to City Council, and they will make the final decision. Now, if we assume it's approved by City Council, then what comes next is a master plan, where right now we're looking at, and let me ask, Mr. Price, town center, what are you thinking on a time frame in terms of years? I imagine it's a ways off.
Yeah, it is a ways off. The issue you've got is the improvements to FM 1518. And really, the town center will not be able to get off the ground until those improvements are completed. The last I heard from TxDOT is they're about 80% finished with design. They will go to issue contracts next year and start construction in 2023. And they're talking a 2.5 to 3 year construction schedule. So, you know, just the nature of commercial, I mean, we're just, with those issues with the construction, we're scheduling it to really start seriously looking at it in 2025, somewhere in there, you know, because you'll have a 2-year lead time leading up to it.
Okay, thank you, sir.
One thing I do want to mention is the reason, and I apologize, but the reason that your property was included in this conceptual master plan was we had it under contract about 4 or 5 years ago with, I think it was Mr. Rakovitz. And so at the time, this is when this graphic was, you know, made.
Right.
So I think there could be some development that would happen sooner than that, because we've scaled back greatly on the garden home, or I mean the town center. I mean, there just isn't enough houses out there to support what we were originally proposing. So I think you're also going to have some garden home, possible some multi-family. We're looking at assisted and independent care, medical office.
Okay, thank you. So then what the process is assuming this is approved by City Council, then they come back with a master plan where now it's a little more than concept. Now they're going to, you know, they'll give us a little better detail of lot layout and streets, drainage, and all that kind of stuff. But then before they can, and that will come to the commission for approval. But then the next stage after that is the platting process. That's where they sit down with the surveyors and they actually draw the lot lines and lay out the streets. And during the platting process, they're required to address drainage issues, which will be reviewed by our city engineering department. And you correct me if I stray off here. Somewhere along the line, there'll be a traffic analysis to look at traffic. And then, depending on what they build, first off, all this PDD does is take that tract 2 and track 1 that he now owns and include them in the PDD. That's all it does. He can't do anything, you know, your property is your property. Nobody can do anything with it, okay? But where I was going is then, and as it develops, the city has buffer requirements, and it all depends on what they end up building. Let's assume you don't sell your property, and he has to build around you. If it's residential, it would most likely just be a privacy fence. If it's any kind of a commercial retail type thing, then we require masonry walls and landscape buffers. So those issues will be addressed as the development proceeds. And if I understand correctly tonight, the only thing we're doing with Town Center, or what do you call it, Module 2, is including these 2 tracts of land. We're not, all the other things we address all have to do with Module 3, which is on the other side of Woman-Hollering Creek, down south. Okay? Megan, did you want to add anything to that?
Just to reiterate, though, with the, this is a conceptual plan, this is just for a zone change, but you can, any residents with the city of Schertz can submit an open records request. I know that both residents had made the comment about wanting some information. You can submit public information request to the city secretary. This PDV or
All right, thank you very much. Commissioners, comments, questions?
I have a question. What's the, I know what the Crossvine Homeowners Association is. What's the Crossvine Master Association? So it's one and the same. Okay.
The only thing I'm concerned with is the creek and the possible overflow, drainage, because that area has a tendency to flood pretty regular. If you haven't been there, in a while, 98, that whole area was underwater.
Yes, it does.
Another question.
Go ahead, sir.
I think Mr. Price covered it, but did we have in other parts of the Crossvine development, did we have other lots with 5-yard side setbacks?
So
all of them?
So within all of the PDDs for the Crossvine, I did do some research, as it was mentioned by Commissioner Outlaw. So for ordinance, well, let me go to the big screen. For ordinance 12-S-01, Exhibit 32, as you can see for the land use dimensional requirements for DSFR 1, 2, and 3, the side setbacks are the 5 foot. For ordinance 12-S-16, Exhibit 32, for the Module 1, Exhibit S, excuse me, that is a typo, for DSFR 1, 2, and 3, the 5 side setbacks.
Okay, that answers my question. What did we do with the air conditioning units? That's been a little sticking point in the past with some developments. I noticed in Amendment 5 it says we can put the HVAC units on the side or the rear. What did we do in these previous ones? Was it side or rear or both?
It was
side and rear.
So would the HVACs normally be in front of the fence or behind the fence? Right. Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Well, I don't know what to say, because you know what I don't like. We've talked about setbacks before. And I asked, in our pre-meeting meeting yesterday morning, I asked staff to go back and where else did we have 5-foot side yard setbacks in, and and then I found it this morning, and as I started doing some research of my own. And imagine my surprise to find out they go all the way back to the original Sedona Trails PUD. Now, in my defense, I was the fire marshal at the time, but I don't remember fighting that battle. So, in all likelihood, yeah. But one of my questions, Commissioner Broad's already asked about, because I went out today. I'm slowly but surely becoming enlightened about, a couple months ago we were talking about small lots, and I live up in Savannah Square. I live in a 2,500 square foot, story and a half. It's not a full 2-story. But imagine my surprise when I found the plat for Savannah Square Unit 2, and we're basically an R6 subdivision. Okay, it kind of opened my eyes a little bit more to what's really wrong with 60 by 100 foot lots. I mean, anyway, well, just for fun, I went out this afternoon and took my tape measure out, and I have it's 8.5 feet on the inside. I sit on the corner of Savannah Drive and Forsyth Park, so I've got a really nice side yard on Savannah Square, on the Savannah side. But on the other side, my fence is 8.5 feet from my house, and it looks like my neighbor is probably just another 5 feet. But what I did is I measured my air conditioning unit, and the outside edge of that AC unit sits 44 inches from my wall. So with a 5-foot setback, that would allow 16 inches for the fire guys to maneuver. I think you've addressed that. You've had that discussion with the fire department. My concern is, okay, it's not necessarily the workability or being able to maneuver in there. It's how close you're setting those combustible structures next to each other. Okay. What I wanted to ask you folks tonight, because the other thing I've kind of noticed, and it's always been there, I don't know why I didn't see it before, is these are, well, let me start by saying, when I saw a 7,500 square foot lot, and you still wanted a 5-foot side setback and a 10-foot, that just blew my mind, okay? I mean, you got this huge lot, and you still, but what I wanted to ask you, those are minimums, okay? So how does it work out in the real world, now that you've got quite a few homes built out there in your development? If I was to go out there with a tape measure, what would I find? Come on up, please. Yeah, it's not just us. We're live streaming this and recording it, so.
Our land plan is very curvilinear. So we have very few straight streets, therefore very few rectangled.
And that's one of the good things, that's one of the things we all like about it, yes.
So what that does is it actually, in reality, most of our setbacks are much larger, because if in one area they meet the minimum and they're slightly pie-shaped.
Yeah, I understand.
It just gets larger.
Right.
The distance between the homes
Okay.
gets larger and larger. So that's often,
Well, the other thing that kind of got me thinking about that was when I look, for instance, one comment for the future. I was really put out and it took me quite a while to find it, to find the lot dimensions of a DSFR1. Okay, it would have been nice maybe if that was a note or somewhere where I didn't have to look for it. But anyway, when I do the math, let's see, where's your chart? When you look at and let's talk about a DSR4. It's 45 by 110. That's 4,950 square feet. Now, realizing that the house may not be exactly rectangular because you may set the garage back, bring the porch, but I just drew a rectangle inside that lot that took 5 feet off each side, 20 feet off the front, 10 feet off the back. And I came up with a buildable area that's quite a bit bigger than, you're proposing maximum one story, 2,400 square feet. I think when I did the math, that's almost 2,800 square feet. So then I got to thinking, and even that 2,400 is less than the 65% maximum impervious cover. So that's what got me to thinking about, okay, they're asking for 5-foot setbacks, but what do they really end up with when they build these houses? And so, yeah, where you need to, you use it.
exactly.
And, yeah. Let me ask you just a curiosity. Go ahead.
I'd just like to add one thing. You referred earlier to, I guess, to the policing of it. The builders have to submit to us, for us to review and assert that it's PDD compliant. The city won't even review a home unless we've signed off on it. So really a lot of that responsibility is on us to make sure that the air conditioning unit is properly located and that kind of thing.
My only concern would be that, of course, I imagine I hear a lot of negative about HOAs, but the thought that's running through my mind is you build a house and the fence is 5 feet from the back of the house, and when the guy he decides he wants to bring it all the way forward, and hopefully the HOA would.
The HOA.
Because
There's actually a line in this PDD amendment that makes that a little more crystal clear to homeowners and builders, because it was not stated as emphatically, I think, as it should have been. Maybe it was the line in the PDD currently stating that the cross fence will be attached 5 feet from the rear of the house was to clear up any confusion that residents might have of what they need to do.
Well, your comments make me feel a little better. Again, I'm probably never going to get rid. The fire prevention guy is never going to go away. But the fact that you're aware of it and you address it, and quite frankly, when I bought my house, of course there was nobody. There were when I bought my house, there were 3 empty lots. Basically, there was nothing around me, so I had no idea I had no idea about setbacks or anything like that. So okay. Commissioners, anybody else have anything? So once again, this is a recommendation to City Council to either approve or deny.
The recommendation, we send this to City Council with a recommendation of approval, ZC 2021-004.
Okay, I have a recommendation, or I have a motion to recommend approval of ZC 2021 from Commissioner Greenwald.
I'll second.
Commissioner Ray, okay, we have a second. All right, so I have a motion and a second to recommend approval. Any further discussion, questions? Hearing none, I'll call the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Never thought I'd say that. 7 ayes, no nays. Motion to recommend approval passes. And thank you. I appreciate you being here, and I was really hoping we could have that that discussion, so thanks. All right, item number 6, request by commissioners to place items on a future planning and zoning agenda. Anybody have anything? Let me ask a question here. Would it be helpful if we had a workshop, and what I'm thinking of is staff goes through the land uses or goes through that permitted use table, but they read us or show us the definitions of each of the different, like what's the difference between GB and GB2 or M1 and M2? Would that be, number one, is it feasible to do that? And number two, would it be helpful to anybody? Did you? Okay. Would it be easier to just put together some kind of a written thing and give it to us, or?
Yeah, I was going to say what we could do to begin with is put something written together for you, provide it to you, and then have y'all go through it, and then if y'all have additional questions, then we could work a workshop.
Is that all right? Then I won't ask for it on agenda. See, we're just too lazy. Well, I'm sure we could find it ourselves, but it's like me fumbling around yeah.
We're happy to do that for y'all.
All right. Okay.
It was a lot easier when we had a hard copy document.
Well, I still do, but I'm not sure it's probably not current. But yeah, I pull it off the shelf at home all the time. All right, so that's not an agenda item. You folks will take care of that for me. Anybody, nothing for the agenda? About announcements? Anybody have anything? Let me throw one out here, and Brian, you want to hang on because you want to hear this one too. The pre-meeting meeting yesterday, and this is really more building and standards, but I feel so good about it. I got to share it with everybody. We were looking, they're talking about 4,100 square foot houses out here in this module 3. And somehow I got wrapped around the 3,000 square foot. So my question to, I think it was William, the plan reviewer in the building department, are they enforcing the 3,000 square foot residential sprinkler ordinance? Well, he was quick to remind me that it's 5. I'm getting older, okay? But what really, I found out that there are actually builders out there and southwestern Schertz that have chosen to sprinkler large homes rather than build firewalls. Probably not a lot. He mentioned 2 or 3, but I felt good. I think that's really encouraging that maybe the light is starting to, okay. So announcements by city staff.
So we did receive a site plan application. Just wanted to show you for Valvoline Express Care Site 1, Lot 1, Block 1. Here is the illustrated site plan. Outlined here is the subject parcel for doing a Valvoline Express Care.
So mine will hopefully be pretty quick too. When staff makes a change to the Planning and Zoning Commission agenda, we want to make sure that we bring that forward to you guys so you can, or to the commission, so you can provide any feedback to us. So on this side, this is how the previous April 28th agenda looked, and the city council results and the announcements by staff was starting to get really, really long and was leading us to be sometimes on a 4th page for the agenda. We don't have a whole lot of room out front, right, where we post the agendas. So we decided to follow city council's lead with this meeting's agenda and just had another item, information available in the Planning and Zoning Commission packets, no discussion to occur. So that's what the last page of the agenda will look like kind of moving forward. It'll have just this bold text, and at the very end of the packet will actually be another agenda item. So this one ended up being 7A, where we talk about the new site plan that we received, the city council results, which just as a point of clarity, there is a mistake here. This should be a 6-1 vote for the first reading. And then we'll also include the administratively approved projects between each P&Z agenda, which had not previously been posted on the agenda, but since we have a little more room, we can start adding those items to the staff memo. So if there's any questions or feedback or suggestions, please send them my way. Happy to make any changes.
All right, thank you. Okay.
Ryan James, Assistant City Manager. I really just wanted to point out for the commissioners who did not watch the council video from Tuesday night, at the end of the Heritage Oak zoning case, a lot of the council members wanted to make clear for the record that they appreciate the job that the Planning and Zoning Commission does. You know, we've talked about that a little bit before. Kind of part of your job is to kind of flesh this stuff out as it comes forward. It's to allow residents to spend a lot of time talking and asking questions to kind of make things a bit smoother for city council. And one of the things I think, because it was talked about at the joint meeting, was sometimes where there's a different vote on the part of council than the Planning and Zoning Commission. And I think really what they wanted to make clear to P&Z, and again, I'd encourage you to watch this for yourselves, but I said they asked that we would tell you, is that both the Carmel Ranch, which was the zoning case off of Lower Seguin, and then particularly the Heritage Oaks Ranch off Wiederstein Schertz Parkway, that the applicants made changes that they felt was based on a lot of the feedback and the concerns that the Planning and Zoning Commission raised. And I think that that was a big factor for City Council. You heard a lot of them echo those things or make note of those, particularly the first hearing. And then last night made the comment that part of the reason they were approving it was because the applicant had made changes based on some of those things that had been brought up. So I would certainly encourage you to watch that video for yourself. Again, if you have a couple extra hours to spare. But again, if it makes you feel better, that's shorter than City of New Braunfels City Council last night. So if you want to stop and think, occasionally we don't always agree, other communities are like that too, and they had one last night as well. So again, keep it in perspective, I think. Again, wanted to make sure they know or communicate how much they appreciate the job you do. And again, I think part of what y'all's role is to raise those issues, and then at times that pushes the applicant to make some of those changes when they won't make them when staff pushes them that way. Greatly.
All right, thank you. Anything else from staff? Okay, there being no further business, this meeting's adjourned.